Good evening, everyone, and welcome again to another session of the action plan. As usual, I have Praveen with me back after a long trip around the western coast of India. So, welcome, Praveen, after your fun week of last week.
Yeah, Grenville, thank you. It was a good traveling after a long time. Okay, think Corona is there, but people are aware of it now, so they have been taking some precautions on it. So it looked pretty safe, not bad.
Good. Okay, so in continuation with our discussion about how do we manage our money. Okay, we thought that this week we'll do a session from the book The Richest Man of Babylon, which is Praveen's favorite book of referral. Every time I talk to him, he brings something out of this book just because I've not read it. So I thought let's put him on a spot and make him speak to us from this book to give us a few experts about one specific aspect, which are the 7 cures of wasting money. So it's a guideline on how you can manage your money and actually start your saving habit in your life. So take it away, Praveen. So tell us about the 7 cures of how not to waste money.
Yeah, thanks, Grenville. As you said, this book has been close to my heart because I had some issues with my finance, and I had been searching all the places to find some remedies for it. And I found this book was very interesting. And the basic principles are very simple and easy to follow. And most of the things, the best part is that we did not, it is not that the guy has invented something new. It is all what we had, and we just missed, or we kept ourselves blind not to see that. So let me give a short introduction about this book, which is available on YouTube as a audio book also. It's worth listening. So I would request all the listeners to at least download this book and go through it once. The book name title is Richest Man of Babylon. It is written by George Samuel Clason. And the prettiest part is that book was written way back in 1926. So what it means that all this close to 100 years, people knew about this thing, and all the latest financial gurus have been using some part of this book modified into a different terms and used it. To go back into the book starts in the Babylon era, which is the Greek thing. So the main characters which starts with is friends, childhood friends by name Bansir and Kobe. So they start discussing the first chapter of it. They start discussing about their financial situation. Bansir is a chariot maker, and Kobe is a musician. And Kobe comes to Bansir to ask for some money and he will return it back maybe the weekend or so. And Kobe and Bansir, both of them have an empty purse, and they feel very frustrated about what their situation. And they keep on debating what is going to be our future, whether our children and all of them are going to follow the same procedure. And suddenly they remember one of their childhood friend by name Arcade, who is the hero of this book. So this guy is been the richest man in the Babylon. And these people they thought that since he had previously, when they met him in a meeting, he greeted them. So they thought they will go to him and ask him how he became the richest man. So that's where the story starts.
Interesting. So part of this, I assume, is where we get to the part about the 7 cures, yeah?
Yes, I will straightly jump into rest. I'm not going back into the story. So I'll jump into the 7 cures which Arcade tells to the young man and the investors in the Babylon city. And to add it further, this particular concept was used by his son because he had a grown-up son. So he wanted, being a rich man, he wanted to check whether his son is worth inheriting his property. So he had given him some share and asked him to develop his wealth. So his son has also used this one. So for Arcade, his mentor was a person by name Alchemist. So Arcade is basically a scribe writer. So this alchemist comes back to get him tablets written to him, and this guy could not complete in time. and he says he will work overnight to get it done. And for return of investment, so he asked Alchemist how he made money on it. So Alchemist gave him the first piece of advice, which Arcade used it and got back his riches. And now for the king, when the king asked him to make a presentation to the young generation in the city and ask them how to learn about it, then he goes about the 7 cures of it.
Okay.
So the first cure, what he says is start thy purse to fattening. So he says first thing is to make your purse fat. That means your purse should be filled with a lot of money. So what he says is that the simplest thing, which is the best to do, is to at least 1/10 of your earnings should be saved. So in the olden days, it was gold, silver, and copper. So what he says is that every time when you get some money, 1/10 has to go to the savings of it. Even in our ancient India, so even most of our mothers or grandmothers, so they would use measuring vessel for rice. So when they take it, when they drop it in the vessel and they put some amount of rice back into it. So it is not that there's something new. We knew that, but we still do not want to follow it. So that's the main thing he starts is that everybody owns at least 10% of his earnings. He says first you should take care of yourself, and that is by saving 10%, which has to become as a habit. Whether you like it, you don't like it, that is the starting point of it. So once you start putting things in your pocket for saving, then rest of the things starts of it. So do you find it interesting, Rene?
Oh yeah, very much. No, I was listening very attentively to what you're saying. So the concept is save a piece of your earnings as savings, right? That's what is the
Yes,
moral of the first point.
he is very specific, saying that it should be 1/10 of it. Minimum is 1/10 of it.
Okay.
So if it is more, he's not he's not objecting to it. He says 1/10. So he says 90. You should be able to live with your 90% of your earnings.
Yeah. So the point is that doesn't mean you can't save more. It's just that at minimum you should save 10%.
Yes, minimum you should save same 10%.
That
So
makes a lot of
once you
sense. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So for that, he gives an example saying that there was in the crowd, there was a guy who sells egg. So he was saying that when you put 10 eggs into the basket and you take 9 out, how much time the basket will fill? So he says within a short time, the basket will start overflowing because 9 eggs only you're selling and one. So he says that is how we should start saving the money.
Okay. So the first one is save 10% of your earnings. What is the second one?
Second one is you need to control your expenditure. Control the expenditure. So he says control the expenditure. It doesn't mean that you should cut your expenditure. What he means that is that you should know where you need to budget, and you need to know where your expenses are going in, so that you know whether it is a useful spending or something which is out of your control. So at least he says you should be aware, since it is your money, you should be aware where your money is going and what you can do to save more or to do of something of a purpose. And why he sticks on to that 10% is he says that 10% is the easiest one to do because you can still manage with 90%. You don't need to do a regular cutting of expenditure.
No, which also is true in our normal life, right? I think 10% of your total salary is actually a very small amount of money, right? As I say, we start counting the drops, they make an ocean. So I think all these sayings came from this very same principle that people think they should save a huge amount of their money to make a lot of planning for the future, but actually it takes the small things that actually get us started. So I think you're right. I think it's about getting into the habit of saving. When you start saving 10%, you would eventually think of saving more. So I think it's a way to get you started into a habit of saving more than limiting yourself to 10%. So I think that is a very good way to go about it. Fine. What is the third one, Praveen?
Yeah, third one is to make the Thai gold multiply. So he's talking about like once you made your savings, once you know where the expenditures are going. So he says now it's your thoughts to invest, where you need to invest and multiply your money. So in the olden case, it was only gold and some real estate there. So now we have multiple options to do it. So you can start, at least to start with, you can go with an FDs or RDs, so that you start multiplying it. And once it's a significant amount, then you can look at stock, shares, real estate, any of those options on it. And the next one he talks about is guard thy treasure from losses. So what he says is, like, you have invested, but you need to know where you have invested, whether the investment is moving forward, moving where it is, or you have lost the money. So he says you should be aware where you have invested, how you have invested. And he says that you should be keeping aware of how much investment that is making. And he talks about this guy just enters for losses. He talks about most of the thing which we always have is that somebody asks for a loan, hand loan. So they say, why don't you give it? It could be a relative, friend, anybody. So there he says that first thing is you make it clear whether it is a loan or you are just giving a money as a gift. So if it is a loan, you make sure that whether the guy is capable of doing it, how he is be able to repay you, and what is the interest or what is the terms you are going to have with respect to the amount as such. So here in the story, he talks about one of his sister's husband wanted to make some business. So he says, your sister, it's a dialogue between the sister and the arcade. So he says, your husband doesn't know how to do that business, and this money is going to end up in a loss. So he tells straight on her face, saying that I will not give that money, it is going to get waste.
I resonate with this point a lot because one of my relatives came to me asking for a loan. It's quite a few years back. And I'm so shocked that I said exactly the term that you just said. So I told them, is this a loan or is this a gift? So if it's a loan, I need to really understand how you're going to pay me back and what percentage of interest you're going to give me back. I said, because it's not that you're my relative, it's just that I owe to my family, that I should ensure that I am getting a return on my investment, right? The second thing is, if it's a gift, I'll only have to assess how much can I really afford to give away, right? And if
Yes.
I can give away, I give it. If not, I say no. So I think that, as you rightly said in the beginning, I think there's so many things that are written down that we subconsciously do without really knowing there's a philosophy behind it. So this is very enlightening to me. And since we both have not spoken about what you're going to speak today, I'm shocked. Because truthfully, this is something that resonates very much with what I have actually done in my life. Exactly the same word for word episode. Please go on. I just thought I should add on to that.
Yes, Granny. What you said is blunt truth. Most of us go through this situation, and most of the time we don't know how to handle it. So we get emotional at times and then miss things on it. So I'll go with the next one. He says, make thy dwelling a profitable investment. So he says, whatever you have invested, it is growing. So he's talking about the reinvestment of the benefits. Like you get an interest. So he talks about how you should do the interest part of it, whether you should reinvest it. Because in the part of the story, he saves the money and he asks him, what have you done? He said, I bought a rich clothes. I had a wonderful dinner. So he says, you have killed all the babies. So he says, you should nurture the babies and move it forward. So he's talking about a simple discipline, which all of us knew, but he's trying to control us on our, excitement and anxiety to spare. When you have money, then your anxiety is to spend. So he's just talking about a discipline and to make it move forward so that you can have a easy life in the later stage. So that he simply talks about that your savings should form in terms of an income, and it should feed you without even working on it. So that is what he talks about that.
Yeah, this reminds me of a Tamil movie that I saw, okay, in which there's a song that says Varavu Ettana, Selavu Pattana, right? Which actually is in principle the same thing, right? You cannot spend more than you are generating revenue. So I think in very simple terms, as he rightly says, is that earning is actually the easy part, right? I mean, we put a lot of effort and a lot of what you call direction into focusing on how to generate revenue. But the most critical part is not about the earning part. Yes, it's difficult to earn money, but the much more important part is how do you manage the money, right? They say a penny saved is a penny earned is actually in reality the fact, because there were times where I used to go to people and I really would calculate very small things like 100 rupees and 50 rupees, and they'll say, what are you doing? I mean, it's just worthless. I say these 100 rupees make 1,000, and 1,000 make a lakh, and a lakh makes a crore. So if you don't start being careful with the hundreds and the fifties, you will not be safe with the thousands and the lakhs, because that's the way you have to have a mentality, whether you're spending a small amount of money or a huge investment, right? In personal life or in business. You need to say is that first, do I need it or do I want it? And the next thing is that can I afford it first? Or is it something I would like to have just because I've taken a fancy to it? So the proper evaluation, irrespective of the quantum of the money being spent, I think is a secret to saving too, beside generating the revenue. So very aptly put. Please, I just thought I should add on that. Please go on.
Yeah, Grenville, what you said is true. A lot of us get into those issues of saying that, okay, it is just a small amount, let's leave it like that. But as you said, the small amounts make a big thing. The other thing this author also talks about is that you don't need to live within your, you don't need to struggle living, or you don't need to cut your basic needs. He says you need to have your basic needs. That's what he says in the second line, saying that expenditure, try to control your expenditure. So what he's talking about is a budget, and he says stay within the budget, and so that you can know where you are spending, how you are spending, and where it goes as such. So the next one he talks about is ensure a future income. So again, he goes back to saying that when you get old, so you don't have an income, so you need to save for your retirement. So what he again and again says is that investment what you made, you should not take it out. You need to reinvest it, grow it, find other alternative where it could be where it could fetch you a higher dividends, and you keep tracking your expenses, tracking your investments. And the last one is increase the ability to earn. So the author goes he says, once you have done, this is almost a system which is set in place. And he says you need to learn a new habit or a new, new talent, so that it can feed you another, like what you have done. So you have taken up consultancy, you did your work and you took up consultancy. So it is like that. So you need to find an alternative source of income or additional source of income, which could help you to increase your savings on it. So this book is interesting. This is only one part of the book which I said. So there is the second part of the book where his son, he gives some amount of money to his son. He goes to a different place. He's been cheated by people. So he loses money, he becomes bankrupt. Then how he starts earning his money to get back into a wealthiest place. So when his son went, he gives him money as well as a tablet, which shows the 5 rules of gold. So how you should maintain it and things. So when he comes back, when the son comes back and he starts explaining to his father with a large gathering there. So his mother used to cry about the hardships his son had faced. So the father tends to be laughing and hearing the son's growth. And the son, after ending his story, he repays his dad the amount he gave by twice the amount. And he says, I will not return your tablets, because this is much more worth than the money you had given me.
So
This is one part. The second part, it goes like there was a guy who's been on severe debt. He was again bankrupt. So he has been threatened by all the creditors, saying that you need to pay, and his life is a threat. His family is not safe. There, the book again says about how he comes back and solves this problem. So he and his wife decides that they should not be running out. So they call in all the creditors and tell them that they need to give some time, and they promise that they will pay them regularly some amount, and over the period they will close it. So which in the latest trend they call it a snowball effect. So you start closing one loans, and then it becomes an habit to start closing the multiple loans. In that, again, it tells about a basic concept which we should practice, which most of us tend to not to do it. He says, even if you are bankrupt, still you need to hold 10% of your earnings. And he says the next 10% goes for your debt payment. He says more than that, it is very difficult for you to pay, or you can. That is that he says that next 10% is a committed payment, debt payment. So you can promise that amount of money, and he says balance 80% of it. He says you can try to save, you can try to live within your means, try to increase your debt payment or savings, and start moving ahead in his life. The author talks about 2-3 instances where people have really come out of their debt situation. So that's why this book makes it more interesting. I thought because I was in this situation, and I'm still learning. So I think most of us in either way would have been in this situations, and it would be nice for them to get a betterment out of their life, and at least it should please them with the money they earn. At least 10% is that they have with them.
Rightly said, see, Praveen, saving is a mindset, right? I mean, it's all about, I mean, people who have made millions have made it in different ways, right? They have reinvested the money, but to get the first money to invest, they had to have a saving for it to do that, right? So we always look at the bright side and say, oh, there's a multimillionaire, he has some secret formula. There is no secret formula. It's just being smart in the way they manage their investment and their money. So as they say, ROI is the center of your life. As long as you keep ROI as a mindset, it should be a mindset for everything. If I give love, I need to have a return on my investment of love. If that becomes your mindset, okay, you would approach everything in life with a clear vision that everything is a transaction, right? Relationships are transactions, payments and receivables are transactions, business is a transaction, relationship is a transaction. Everything eventually ends up being a transaction. Now, I'm not saying start calculating everything you do with your loved ones. That's not at all the meaning. I'm just talking about a mindset of the way you approach your savings, and especially in savings. There is no emotion to saving, right? It is a very practical, a mathematical way of doing it, that I have to put in so much money, I need to earn so much more. I need to put away a certain amount of money, a percentage of something. So it's a very practical, mathematical way of approaching a very simple way of a habit. I think that's what all of us miss. Is the starting is the most critical part. As you're talking a little while back, I think the difficult step is for people to sit down and assess where do they stand. That is the most difficult part of creating a habit. Is first identifying where I am today, and then I can start doing something about it. If I always am living in an ambiguity that it could be this, it could be that, I start giving excuses, you get nowhere in life. So this 7 points resonated so much with me, with at least with my life. A lot of these I've implemented with great returns that I have received back because of strictly following this, not knowing that there was a book written out there that had these things written there. But it was just a way that my parents instilled in me the habit of saving. So I started my saving when I was 23. The very first penny that I saved was when I was 23. All the way now that at 48, I can afford to follow my passion because I've invested over many years. As I told you, you cannot start talking about return on investment in one day. It's a planned effort. It's like a journey. As you have a career, you build up to your career. Savings are pretty much on the same lines, right? You need to start thinking short term and long term. And the important part, as you said in this book, is that don't stop living. There are people who deprive themselves to save. And by the time they come to a stage, they can spend it. They can't even spend it for anything. So they're either weak or sick or have diseases. Like when you can eat, you need to eat, right? You can't say, I'm going to starve myself because I want a healthy old age. At the old age, you can't eat, right? That doesn't mean go and eat all unhealthy stuff and get sick. So it's a matter of planning your life and setting priorities. What do you prioritize as which is important for you or not? And as I said, 10%, if people approach this 10% concept, it's a very small amount and a very small piece of what you do. As Christians, we give a tenth of our salary to the church. Okay, sometimes it turns out to be a large amount of money, but actually it's just 10% of your earnings. If you look at it that way. So I think whether it's religion or whether it's philosophers, I think everybody has got a concept about what portion you need to prioritize for what reason in your life. So thank you for bringing this topic, Praveen, and it was very interesting for me. And I'm sure the people who listen to this video and who came live, if they even take one step, I think that will take them way beyond where they are today and help them at least start this journey of saving and move towards having a prosperous and a comfort and a contented life. That I think is the secret of this whole process. Correct?
Yes, Granny. I just wanted to add one small note on the savings. So normally what we think about savings is that I put away some amount of money. Here in this author means that the saving is something which you say, today I put 100 rupees. I will not take this 100 rupees at any point of time. That is what the author means. So that he allows the time for that 100 rupees to grow. Normally, our attitude of saying is that I save 100 rupees now, and next year I have some problem, so I take this 100 rupees and use it. So author is very specific that this 100 rupees should not be charged. It's like almost like a sealed account or anything where it keeps on. It's only habit is to grow, and you can take it only to reinvest, not for any expenses or anything of that sort.
I think the magic word you used was right, Praveen. It is investment, right? You are investing in yourself and in your future. I think the principles are very simple, right? One part is living in the moment, which is today, and living a comfortable and a contented life. But at the same time, planning for your future, because if you do not plan, you will get nowhere in life. So I think the principles are very down to earth and very simple and practical and related to our day-to-day living and the way of just taking a normal going through the motion living and making it a little bit more organized. You take 10% of your earning, put it away, invest it, secure it, look at ways of multiplying it. Okay, once you've come to a level that you have reached the capacity of what you have saved, find ways of generating more revenue so you can save more. When you earn more, your 10% quantum goes more. It's still 10%, but the volume of the 10% goes up, right?
Yes.
The concepts are very simple, I think, and very easy to implement. I mean, it's easy to say, it's easy to implement. I think it's important about a mindset change that we need to think of doing things in small. People believe investment means go and get a portfolio manager, sit down and talk about a whole investment plan for the next 20 years and start putting away a huge amount of money, taking a loan. Yes, all those are also ways to do it, but it doesn't have to be to that magnitude. It starts with very small things. As you said, I started my first saving with a post office account, savings account, a recurring deposit
Okay.
of 100 rupees. Huh? I used to put 100 rupees a month because my salary was 1,500 at that time. So it was little less than 10%, but still it was something I forced myself to save every month. And then as I went on, I found that I was able to do with much less of my salary. I didn't need 90% of my salary. So again, it's about setting your mindset and your way of life to living within your means. That is, I think, the secret of this whole process. So thank you, Praveen. You have anything else to add?
Only one small. When you said multiply, so in that story also the author goes about when you have money and there's an opportunity for doubling your investment. So when you don't have money, you just see that option and you just let it go. So he talks about that when you have these savings and you have an opportunity to double your investment, you should try to do that. So that is one easy way of doubling your money at a faster rate as such.
Great, Praveen. I mean, we have come pretty close to the end of the half an hour and it flew today because it was so engaging and interesting. So thank you for bringing this topic. All kudos to Praveen this time. I had nothing to contribute as selecting the topic. It was totally his. And since he's so passionate about the book, you could hear it in his voice. I had to hold him back to the topic because he would have covered the whole book if I gave him a chance in this 30 minutes. So thank you, Praveen. I mean, I see why you are so passionate about this book. It definitely has a very practical and a very down-to-earth approach of saving. That makes, I think, any layman understand the simple principles of creating a saving mindset. So for everybody who came on live, thank you for joining us again this week. It was a pleasure having you. And for those who are going to view the recording as well, thank you for coming and watching a recording on a regular basis. If you're following my FB page, thank you. If not, do like it so that you will get notified when we get new events started every week. We do these sessions every Sunday at 2 o'clock so that you can have a relaxed weekend and talk about general topics that are related to personal development and development of our business. So we have no proper fixed agenda. We try and pick topics that we feel are interesting to you. So if you are interested in a specific topic, do leave a comment on this video as well as on my YouTube channel, where I put a recording of this as well for sharing it in the public. So thank you for joining us. Have a great evening and a great weekend. Take care, stay safe, and do not forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. I'll see you next week with our one and only Praveen for another session. Good night, goodbye, and take care.
Yeah, thank you guys. See you all next Sunday. Happy Republic Day to all.
From my side too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.